So if I may start off with you, Ms. Trump, you watch what is occurring in the world. You have a passion for this. It'd be so easy with the economy of the U.S. going well, the tax reforms changing, et cetera, not to have the courage to make this change. Why is the administration doing this? Why is it so important to you personally? And let me also ask a double question. What advice would you have for the young women entrepreneurs in the audience in terms of kind of lessons learned? Because you've come through a male-dominated world and done remarkably well. What would be your thoughts on both topics?
Thank you, John, and thank you for all that you've done to inspire so many entrepreneurs, men, female alike. And for participating in this dynamic panel. We appreciate it. I was so excited to come here to Hyderabad, this center of innovation, and to have the opportunity to meet with so many entrepreneurs from all over the world who are deeply inspired by their own individual mission. And that, to me, is one of the most incredible things. And ultimately, now in this role in government that I'm so privileged to have, that's my desire, to create an opportunity for more people to have the advantages that I've been so fortunate to have. I talked about the unique challenges that face female entrepreneurs, the lack of adequate access to capital, to networks, to mentorship, and in some countries to equitable laws. These are challenges we can solve for by talking about the problems, by working together, by combining the thought leadership of those in the private sector and here in this room today with smart government policy that enables all of our country's citizens to thrive. So you asked earlier about my advice. You just have to do it. You just have to do it. I think too often there's a myth that everyone who started a business was 100% sure and had 100% belief that that business would succeed. It's not true. So to those aspiring entrepreneurs who are in this audience today and are wondering if you have what it takes, if you are deeply passionate about the company you want to start, if you're deeply passionate about your vision to create change and to create a product or service that will better the world, just go do it. Just go do it. No time like the present.
Ms Sitharaman, you have an amazing record in your country here in India of women being successful in politics, in business, and the arts. What is the magic here? If you look at your Security Council, 2 of the 4 of you are women. What is the takeaway for many of us in this audience about what India is doing different and the generation of female leaders that you all have been able to develop and continue to develop?
Well, I like to believe that that trait in the Indian women has always been there. Only in the last 60 years, because of the model of development that India had adopted, there wasn't much of a chance for India to support or facilitate women who naturally had the instinct. And when I say entrepreneurial, it is not just doing business, but also getting into education, getting into that which is going to be a social catalyst, that kind of a work which women were very good at doing. The Prime Minister in his speech referred to the cooperative movement, which has been largely women-driven. So if you look at it, even while writing the Constitution of India, there were 15 women, and some of them coming from very, very deprived, socially denied sections. So it is possible. Only now the focus is very clearly to bring all women on board, whether they are going to be scientists. In fact, the Mars mission, the rocket which India launches, is dominated by a woman scientist, Tessie Thomas.
Yes.
So it is possible in India, but of course, because education access has not been very widely available, a lot of emphasis by the government is now being given to send all girls to school, give them the necessary facilities, ensure that they go into higher studies, and so on. The momentum which is being given by Prime Minister Modi for small loans to be given for women, because in India, I can say this from my own experience, when you want to start a business as a woman, and if you approach a bank, the first thing that you have to provide is security for the loan that you're taking. And because women belong to a part of a family, in the sense either the father has to support, or if they're married, the husband has to support, on their own, many of them did not even keep some property. So it became the first necessary thing for a woman, and today, by law, and particularly the Mudra scheme, which the Prime Minister has launched, it has said, in fact, the Prime Minister, in one of his speeches said, I am the guarantor for every woman who wants that loan without a guarantee. So, out-of-box thinking has helped to empower women, but we have a long way to go.
But it's very possible.
It is.
And achievable.
Achievable.
And it's not a dream.
Not at all.
We can do it together.
Yes, but of course, effort is needed by everybody.
Agreed. Ms. Samba, you had a vision of the first 100% owned female entrepreneurship in aviation. In my notes said in South Africa, I'm not sure, but what in the world? What are some of the lessons learned? Was it what you thought, being a female going into a male-dominated world? How did you adjust your leadership style, or did you, in terms of what was expected? And how could you teach many of us in the audience, not just the females, but us males that need to learn as well, what it was like for you in making these changes?
For me, starting an aviation company started with a passion. I'm a human resources practitioner by profession. And one day I decided that, I want to follow my dreams. I want to find what lies within me and pursue that. So I decided that I am going to leave the corporate world, start my own aviation company and thrive. Little did I know that everything comes with a package, that it is not smooth sailing to be an entrepreneur. However, it is possible when you persevere and you have a vision and you look at the end of the road at what you want to achieve. There's been so many hurdles in getting and thriving in aviation industry. One of them is access to finance. You might be sitting there and asking yourself, who funded this young lady to own a private jet company and helicopters in South Africa, in the African continent? It was during December time when I got my first order from government to do my flight from Johannesburg to Bujumbura. I had no finance at all, and I ran to finance institutions to go and ask for finance. But many doors closed because they said, one, aviation is a risky industry, and secondly, I didn't have collateral at all, to service the debt that I was looking for. But I didn't say, you know what, I'm not getting any help at the moment. I just decided to find alternatives. I called my mother, who had retired in South Africa, but who was working as a nurse in London, and said, Mommy, I have resigned. But here's the good news. I've got an opportunity to thrive as an entrepreneur. How can you help me? My advice to the new and aspiring entrepreneurs is that when you are determined, and when you have a vision, and when you have a plan, don't let it die because of the challenges that you meet. Instead, find alternative solutions, because there is always a solution. Sometimes it might take longer than planned, but at the end of the day, when you persevere, you will be able to thrive and win. Thank you.
Thank you. You're amazing, young lady. All very proud of you and your courage. Marcus. Scandinavia, the Nordic countries have often led in the gender diversity. What causes the Nordics to be so progressive? What are some of the lessons learned? And a little bit your thoughts about mentoring top women entrepreneurs and how you go about it.
Well, as you said, I come from a different part of the world where the diversity question has been very much up front for a long, long time.
Yes.
For many reasons. I mean, it's an egalitarian society at heart. On top of that, they've been actually, in the last few years, a tremendous push for entrepreneurship in our part of the world. I'm happy to say that a lot of those who are doing that today are women. And I would say that I participate in several mentor programs. And for those of us who've been running corporations, we know how tough it is to be running something. You're pretty much alone. You maybe don't have a board. You really need somebody to talk to completely openly. in many cases, it's a bigger job, a bigger sacrifice for a woman to start up. When, you know, coming from a different mode, very often having a family responsibility at the same time. I would say that you have to remember, I'm just thinking about your discussion about risk, the difficulty to find risk capital. This is typically a thing that a mentor can help you with. You know, to support, open up the doors, give them support, having the experience, and then really making it work.
Ms. Trump, when you look at the future of the U.S. and the world, technology, every company is going to become a technology company. And it doesn't matter if you're in retail or fashions or in government. How important is it that our education system evolve? And how important is it that we really focus on our women entrepreneurs, really giving them the education in technology and STEM? And what do you think we need to do better, both as a country, our home country, and around the world in this area?
Thank you, John. Well, I think it's tremendously important. Historically, women have been greatly underrepresented in STEM fields. And you note that now technology is not confined to one sphere.
Yes.
Technology is disrupting every industry and reinventing every industry. So every industry is a technology industry. And I view computer science, digital literacy as really foundational to success across so many industries, especially when you look at the future of where work is headed. So as part of our commitment to ensuring skills training and ensuring we continue to have an incredible and competitive workforce, we've been very, very focused on prioritizing STEM education, starting in our schools K through 12, and with a particular focus on making sure that the programs are designed with gender and racial diversity in mind. So when you look at a field like computer science, for example, women represent 47% of the American workforce, yet make up only 21% of computer science professionals.
Yes.
So what's very concerning when you look at where the jobs of the future are going to be increasingly headed, and you look at the low representation of women in this very critical field, and this is true of all STEM fields, engineering, we represent 13% of engineers. So you look at the work of the future, if we continue not to take our fair share, if we continue to be underrepresented in these high growth areas, in these lucrative fields of the future, I worry that the fourth industrial revolution will not only lead to us remaining stagnant in terms of closing this persistent gender wage gap, but I worry we'll actually start to make negative progress and lose a lot of the gains that we've made in recent decades. So I think it's critically important, and that's why President Trump rolled out just a few months ago a presidential memorandum that told the Department of Education to prioritize STEM education and committed $200 million, a minimum of $200 million annually towards that goal.
Madam Minister, before you were defense minister, you really implemented Prime Minister Modi's startup concepts and how you do a startup ecosystem, as well as how you do stand-up in terms of the women leadership. If the majority of the jobs in this country, but also around the world, are going to be generated entirely through startups, because the large companies, Marcus, you and I were talking, are not going to add jobs in total over this next decade. Some will increase, some will decrease. What were the lessons learned in both roles in terms of what the audience could learn about what we've done right in India, and what you think the challenges are to carry over this to it being a largely startup-generated gender equality as we move forward?
It's interesting that you raised this point. Soon as this new government under Prime Minister Modi was formed, the Prime Minister's emphasis was, we have to encourage the young entrepreneurs. And the Startup Action Plan, about which he referred in his speech too, was launched. And not just launched the action plan, but we kept our ear close to the ground. And as and when startups kept telling us that there had to be more and more changes, more tweaking to the action plan itself, we were ready for the changes. Because inherently we believe that governments can no longer generate jobs on their own as much as you want. It can still probably give some jobs, but it cannot generate as much as you would want, one. And second, people also, particularly in India, were no longer looking up to the government for providing jobs. They thought they had the capacity, the skill sets to start a business and provide more jobs for others in their neighborhood or among their acquaintances. We finalized December 4th as the date when I will be working with the Chambers of Commerce and the startups. A huge list has been made to ensure that I interact with them to see about women's participation and about how they can help in the defense ministry's production and procurement process. Because Indian startups have made and are continuing to make very big contribution for defense industry, both in India and abroad. We want to make sure that we leverage that opportunity that we have. And on the 4th of December, I am sitting with a lot of these industry leaders and the Chambers of Commerce to ensure that the startups are given equal playing field opportunities when tenders are given out by the government, asking for people to supply. Startups have a problem because till now the rules were such that unless they had existed in the field for more than a certain number of years, they couldn't even qualify. Unless they had a certain number of amount of turnover, they couldn't even qualify. We are removing all these kind of rules which restrict the startups. And therefore, I feel startups do have a very big opportunity in entering into defense industry, helping India to procure, and also probably export. So that's one thing. And the last thing about Prime Minister's approach again on stand-up. How is it different? How are women entrepreneurs going to be helped with it? India has more than 600 districts. And in each one of the districts, there is at least one commercial bank, a scheduled bank available. Prime Minister's desire was to tell these banks that in every one of the districts, which is 600 or more now, at least one woman should be given money to start her business as a startup entrepreneur, so that innovation at district levels also are recognized, funded, and scaled up. So it is not going to be just a Bangalore, Hyderabad, phenomena. It is going to be across the board, everywhere in the country, in the districts. So there, the women business is happening.
As you leave tonight, I'd like for each of you to think what you can do to make a difference this next year. And I'm going to ask for each of the participants to share with the audience a call to action. Very often people don't care because nobody they admire asks them to care. Very often they don't do something because they think they cannot make a difference. Or third, if they do something, they won't see the results. And I'll commit to us that next year at GES, wherever it is in the world, we will share the results on the gender diversity equality that we've done. Marcus, what would be your call to action to the people in this room?
I guess I stick to my gun. So I'll say that if I should challenge the participants here with one thing for next year, is that I really believe that entrepreneurs do really benefit from the support of an individual, a mentor, or somebody who's just helping out. So if I should ask for something from all of you here, is to make a goal to help one entrepreneur during the coming year to really support and make them good.
Madam Minister, your thoughts, the challenge for the people in the room, your call to action.
I think the push has to come from women themselves, irrespective of the field in which they are. But at the same time, for every male and female entrepreneur, there should be a conscious attempt to help one more. And that itself will get a lot of women out. I think women's skills are underestimated by women themselves. They should come out and knock at every opportunity, knock at every door. There are opportunities, and only a sensitive government will have to be responding to it. Today in India, the environment prevails. Globally too, we can see a lot of interest. So women should come forward. And that itself is a major big step.
Thank you. Mrs. Sambo, your thoughts. What would be the call to action for the people in this room that you would like to challenge them on?
Okay, thank you, John. I would like to challenge first my sisters from Africa. Can I ask all of you to stand? Let them see you. We didn't come all this way to waste time. We came here to network and to do business. You can see them, they are so colorful. So please find partners here. I want to challenge each and every one of you here that make a difference in your businesses, in your corporation, in your corporates, and make sure that you mentor every young girl and young boy. I'm a mother of 2 boys, so I will not encourage only mentoring girls, but also mentoring young boys, because those are our leaders as well. Thank you very much.
Ms. Trump, would you bring us home? Challenge the group and don't hesitate to really push us, especially the men.
First of all, John, thank you. And I do want to say not only have you moderated this panel beautifully, but you have inspired so many entrepreneurs, and we're grateful to have you here, and thank you for your tremendous contribution to the ecosystem of entrepreneurship in the United States, in India, and all over the world. In terms of my call to action, I'll echo what was just said about mentorship, because it's so critical and it's something that each of us can do. So our governments should help us lower barriers, create a climate that enables us to be competitive, regulatory relief, tax reform, all the things we discussed, access to capital. But each one of us can find in our communities, in our neighborhoods, another person who could benefit from our knowledge and who we could give knowledge to them, but they can also provide tremendous insight to us as well. One of the things I've really been impacted by wherever I go, whether it's throughout America or anywhere in the world, is the fact that most people will say that the guidance they got, the professional wisdom that somebody imparted upon them, was more valuable to them than even capital in the earliest days, because they avoided major pitfalls. And this is particularly challenging for women because there are less natural mentors. There's a smaller ecosystem of women, which is why the men in the room need to create opportunities for their female peers and create sponsorship opportunities, create networking and mentorship opportunities for them as well. So we can start to build that out and grow it. But mentorship really, I've come to believe, is so core. And I look at my own personal experience, and so much of what I was able to do was based on the advice and the feedback I got from the very intelligent people I would ask very basic questions of, and especially in the earliest days of my starting out in business and starting my own business. So that is something that I will ask each of you to do. I will try to do this as well, and we appreciate your being here. I'm deeply inspired by the number of countries represented, by the diversity we have here today, by the gender equality that is present in this room of innovators. And I look forward to a great summit. So thank you to our hosts.